Uh, let's do the Gemara. It's not going to take long. Let's just look at the picture over here. Remember, on the he sprayed the dam hapar in the kodesh kadashim, then put it on this base, right over here, and then the Mishnah says he shechted the goat, went inside the kodesh kadashim, sprayed inside the kodesh kadashim, came out of the kodesh kadashim. That's how achas lamala shevel lamata. And then he put down the blood of the damasar. So now you have the dam hapar and the damasar, right? Now he has to pick up the dam hapar and spray it on the curtains over here, on the paroiches. And then he has to pick up the dam hasor. So in our Mishnah, it says that you had two places, one holder for the par and one holder for the sa'ir. The Gemara, Rabbi Huda said a comment that they only had one holder. That was it. And whenever he came out with the dam hasoir, let's say he came out with the dam hasoir, he removed the dam hapar and put down the dam hasoir. He only had one. Why did Rabbi Yehuda have this problem? Why didn't he agree to make it easy for the kohen to have one for the par, one for the sa'ir?
Not to make a mistake, mix them up.
Did you ever see the honeymooners? I don't know if you know honeymooners.
Yeah, of course. I love that.
Okay, so there was one called Matter of Record where Ralph made a recording to his wife.
Yep, yeah, right, to his mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Apology.
An apology. So Norton sent the wrong record.
Right.
So lahavdil. It's probably the most classic because he kicked out his mother-in-law and then his wife. That was when the alarm bell went off.
Yep.
3 minutes. 3 minutes, and then his mother-in-law.
Right.
So he's apologizing to his wife, and first time he apologizes is a mess up. So lahavdil. The reason why Rabbi Yehuda did not want to have two bases over here, because he might pick up the dam hasoir again, and then spray the dam hasoir first on the curtain, and then pray, and then it's possible, and then spray the dam hapar. So we wanted him to hold it into his hand and constantly switch, so he'll know where he's at, and that he should switch from the dam hasoir after.
I would think they would have. It's simple enough. Look how ornate the Beis Hamikdash was. I don't even understand all this designs on the walls here that they put in the picture. But in the end of the day, why couldn't actually each coast one say par and sa'ir?
That's the Gemara's statement. That's a very good. That's exactly what the Gemara states. The Gemara says that why didn't Rabbi Yehuda agree that you have two bases over here and put a sign for dam hapar over here and a sign for dam hasoir over here?
But they had that argument with the different boxes of charity. Why couldn't it be labeled with donations versus obligations? And the same thing happened because the Kohanim wouldn't pay attention.
Exactly. So Rabbi Yehuda, the Gemara wants to say that Rabbi Yehuda does not hold that signs help. For some people, signs don't help. The sign is not going to help. Why? What's the proof? Because Rabbi Yehuda said that there was no place to put money into the pushka, so to speak, into the Beis Hamikdash. Let's say a woman, when she gives birth, after a period of time, she has to bring two birds, one a carbon oila and one bird for a carbon chatas. So that Rabbi Yehuda said you could put the oila in a pushka. There was a pushka that said oila, but there was no pushka for chatas. You had to actually give it to the kohen, because if there was a pushka the Gemara thought that the reason why that there was no pushkas, because they're going to have pushkas for oilas and the pushkas for chatas. And then they might mix it up. They might bring what was in the chatas pushka, they'll make oilers from it, and the ones that were in oiler pushka, they're going to make chatas from it, and then the whole thing is messed up and it's possible. So therefore, even if you have it all labeled, labeling doesn't help according to Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara, that's what he says. Let's just read it in, just show you to you inside, and then we get to the bottom of the page. Rabbi Yehuda, the Gemara says, let's go, Rabbi Yehuda, that's the last line on Daf Nun Hey Amar Aleph. We're going to skip the whole book. Rabbi Yehuda, les lay kasiba. Labeling does not work. Ain, Rashi says, ain samchin al kach. You can't rely on it. People can't read labels. So the Gemara says, and that's what Rabbi Yehuda says, there was only one pushka to put bird, for if you had to bring an oila, there was one pushka there, but not two, because two already you confuse it. So the Gemara says, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? There's a brisa that says that there were actually 13 pushkas in the base of Mikdash. You ever go into like Satmar or Hasidic places, if you look on the wall, they have 13 pushkas where you can put your money in. For the koilel, for the yeshiva, for the Rebbe's count, for this one and that one. So in the Beis Hamikdash, the Brisa says there were 13 pushkas, each one contained for another purpose, and v'hoyu kosev aleim. The Brisa says there was labels on them. One was called tikling chadatin, one was tikling antikin, etc., etc. And who said this word that labeling works? That they had 13 pushkas and labeling work was Rabbi Yehuda. So that cannot be the reason. So you see, Rabbi Yehuda holds labeling works.
It can't be. I'm not even understanding the proof, because there were two cups for the blood. So the example of one pushka is that there was only one item. Here, by default, we have two items, so it's not even a good proof. It's not apples and apples. There are two things here, so no matter what, they can be confused. How are you supposed to remember which one with the blood you're putting down on the one stand?
Well, that you obviously know that you just came out of the base of the Kodesh Kodashim. He's holding the goat because he just slaughtered it, right? He just slaughtered the goat, right? Then he's going to hold that cup that he's collecting. You see right over here? He walks into the Kodesh Kodashim, does a spray. The damapar is just remaining on the stand. When he gets out, switch it. Take off the damapar, put down the dama sa'ir. So, but if he would have a separate stand for the dam ha'sa'ir, he might re-pick up the dam ha'sa'ir to spray on the curtain. So the Gemara says, why don't you label it? Labeling doesn't work. Where do you see that labeling doesn't work? Because it seems to be that according to Rabbi Yehuda, there was only one pushka in the base of Mikdash, not two. So
you're saying that a man who's in charge of the entire Klal Yisrael's lives at stake, and he's in charge, and he has to make sure that not one drop of ash falls on the floor, and he's so perfect with his entire service, and he's going to mix something. You can't trust him not to mix something up in this one circumstance. Seems a little far-fetched, but all right.
Remember, he's fasting, and he didn't sleep the night before. So, but the Gemara says, but listen, Steve, even in a regular case, Rabbi Yehuda says in the regular base of Mikdash, there was just one pushka. There was only one pushka. That's what we thought. Trey my timer. Why didn't you have two pushkas there? One for the chatas and one for the ola. Mishum de mechalfe. Probably because you could exchange them. The guy who's in charge of the pushkas is going to confuse the chatas with the ola, and from the chatas money he's going to bring an ola, and from the ola he's going to bring a chatas. So so Gemara says again, whenever Trey, let's make two stands and write which one is the par, which one is the sar. So Rabbi Yehuda less like Siva doesn't hold that labeling works. So the Gemara says he does hold labeling works because there was actually 13 pushkas.
Right, but I was not saying to label the stand. I was saying label the kos.
Label. That's probably what it means. The nichtav. What is the nichtav alayhu? The nevet, or maybe the stand or the kos. Okay, but so here's the point. So Rabbi Yehuda does hold label. The Gemara is retracting, and the Gemara is saying that Rabbi Yehuda probably would hold that if it was labeled correctly, that would be fine. So now you have to understand, then why didn't they have a special pushka for carbon chatas? If labeling works and you can trust people not to make a mistake once it's labeled, so then why didn't they have a pushka for women that had to bring a carbon chatas and an oila, right? A woman who gave birth has to bring a carbon chatas and carbon oila. Let them put the money in the pushka and go home. And that should be enough, because we'll take the money from the chatas pushka, bring chatas, and take the money from the oila pushka and bring oilas. So the Gemara says, because we're afraid that one of those women died. One of those women that put money in the pushka of the chatas died. Now the halacha is that if a chatas, that what the owner died, then you'd have to take the money and throw it into Yam HaMelech. Get rid of that money, because that money, you can't bring a Karban Chatas with it. The person is dead. So therefore, you're going to have in this pushka mixed with money. Let's say the Gemara is assuming that, let's say each Karban Chatas, each bird costs 4 zuzim. You're going to have 4 zuzim that belong to a person that died. So what are you going to do with all these monies? It's all mixed up. You're going to throw out all the monies. So this is where we're up to. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? What's the problem? You're worried that a woman died. She put money in the pushka. And a mixture of those monies is that woman that died. And therefore, there's money in there that's supposed to be thrown into Yam HaMelech. So what's the Gemara's question? The nivra arba'a zuzi, just take out 4 zuzim, v'nishtei b'maya, throw it into the Yam HaMelech, to the water. V'hanach nishteri, and the others will become permitted, right? Just get rid of one. And we'll say that 4 that I took out retroactively was that woman's money that died. Okay? So that's the Gemara's question. So we had this concept before. Rabbi Yehuda les le breira. Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of this idea of breira, which means that you can't retroactively affect something. Therefore, it wouldn't work taking out the 4 zuzim, because it wouldn't definitely prove that was her 4 zuzim. How do you know that? Manolam. Ilema, what's the proof that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of that breira, retroactive? We have a Mishnah that says, a man bought wine from like these quasi-gerim, okay? They're Jews, but they don't keep any Torah mitzvahs. On Erev Shabbos, and he has to make Kiddush Friday night. Now, the problem with this wine is there's no Trumas Maestris taken off there's no Trumas Maestris taken from this bottle of wine. What do? You could say like this: I'm going to drink this bottle of wine, and I'm going to leave over shnei lugim, 2 lugs. Okay, I'm going to leave over 2 lugs. Shani osid lahafish, that I'm going to separate it. That will be retroactively. That will turn out to be harei and truma. That was my truma that I was supposed to give on this bottle of wine. Okay, and then let's go to the Navava Malv. Asara, another 10 parts of this bottle of wine. I'm giving that as my Sarishim. That will be my Sarishim that's owed to the Levi. Tisha and 9, we're going to make it Meiser Sheni. Meiser Sheni means that you're supposed to separate, in addition to 10% you're giving to the Levi, you're supposed to separate another 10%, because after you take off 10%, there's 99 left. So you take 10% of the remaining, and that's Meiser Sheni, which you're supposed to actually bring it up to Yerushalayim and eat and drink it there. But Umeichel, you could just transfer the Kedusha of the Meiser Sheni, because that you could do an Erev Shabbos. The Shoisha Miyad, Divrei Rameir. Rameir holds you can drink right away. So again, a guy had Erev Shabbos, this bottle of wine. He has no way to separate out Trumas and Maestros from this bottle of wine. And he needs to use it for Kiddush Friday night. So what does he do? He says that I'm going to retroactively, after Shabbos, going to separate Truma, I'm going to separate Meiser Rishon, and I'm going to say after Shabbos, whatever I'm going to leave over, that turned out to be the Meiser Sheni, the Meiser Rishon, and the Trumas, and whatever I was supposed to give from this bottle of wine. And that works, Divrei Rameir, because Rameir holds retroactive, you could retroactively make something take effect. But Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Shimon say that won't work. So we see that Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of breira. You'd still be usher, because it won't work. And therefore, this bottle of wine is as if you didn't take off Trumas and Maestros, and it would not work, that trick. So almost, we see from here, Rabbi Yehuda holds aim breira. You can't make something effect. So therefore, getting back to Trumas, that case with the carbon money in the pushka, where the woman died, it wouldn't work just taking any 4 zuzim and throwing it in the garbage, because ein breira, it won't retroactively prove that was that woman's money. Therefore, there was never a pushka for chatas, and actually the women had to bring the carbon chatas money to the kohen and tell him to do it right away while they're still hanging around the Beis Hamikdash. So the Gemara asks, Mimai. How do you know that was the reason of Rabbi Yehuda's opinion by the case of the wine? That Ein Breira. Dilma, maybe the reason why he didn't like it, Shad Hossam Kutani Tamli. They told Rabbi Meir that they don't like his, they have a reason why it wouldn't work. Amru Loila Rameir, they told Rameir in that brisa, wouldn't you agree, Shema Yiboka Hanoid, that aren't you scared that over Shabbos, maybe before you get a chance to give it to the Kohen and to the Levi, the pitcher is going to split open and all the contents are going to be spilled on the ground. And it turns out Friday night you drank Kiddush from Tevel, and all the wine that you were supposed to give to the Kohen and Truma for a Maestris was spilled out. Therefore, you're going to drink Tevel Lamafreya retroactively. So that's why we don't like your idea. Save it till after Shabbos. For Amalehem, Meir says, I'm not concerned that the jug will split. You put it away in a safe place. We'll worry about that when the story happens, it will split. So we see that was not the reason of what Rabbi Yehuda holds, Ein Breira. He had another concern over there, was maybe the jug will split. So Ella, says the Gemara, here's the proof that Rabbi Yehuda holds Ein Breira. Okay, here's the following proof. They can't retroactively take something effect. And this we had in Eruvin. B'detono Aye, this Talmud Chacham Aye taught a brisa. The Tono Aye taught this following brisa that Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ein Odom Masna Al Shnei Dvarim Ke'echad. A person cannot make a condition on two things at one time. What's the case over here? Take a look at this picture. The picture is like this. You have a city, right? Look right over here. You have the city, very nice city. A guy has a Talmud Chacham, two Talmidei Chachamim, 1 and 2, right? And he doesn't, and he wants, they're great speakers, and he wants to go, and they're gonna eat. One is gonna come here, and one's gonna come there, before on Shabbos, right? That's where the Talmidei Chachamim coming. So he wants to decide on Shabbos which Talmud Chacham, which speaker he's going to go listen to, the one on the east or the one on the west. Now he puts down an Eruv on the Mizrach side of the city and one on the Ma'ariv, and he says that tomorrow morning I'll decide which speaker I want to go hear. So that doesn't work. So that doesn't work. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Ein odem masna shnei dvarim ke'echad." So he can't make a condition on two things at one time. You can't say I have an eruv in two areas. El in ba chacham lemizrach. If the chacham comes to the east, eruv b'mizrach. He should make the eruv on the east. Lemarav. If the chacham is on the west side of the city, then say eruv lemarav. I'm deciding today. Eruv is lemarav. Avalakan ulakan loy. But to have you have two eruvs and decide the next day, that doesn't work. So clearly you see you can't decide on Shabbos. And we ask, why, if there's two Talmidei Chachamim, and on Friday, on Shabbos, you want to decide which one you want to go to, that doesn't work because we hold Ein Breira. You can't decide retroactively. You have to make the decision because Eruv has to take effect before Shabbos. So Lemizrach U'Ma'ariv Name Ein Breira. Why is it that when Rabbi Yehuda said that if there was one Talmud Chacham and you don't know if he came to the east or the west, you could decide on Shabbos where you want to go. In other words, you didn't know if the Talmud Chacham, this one Talmud Chacham, is he going to go? Let's say we don't know if he's going to come to the west of the city or he's going to come to the east of the city. So on Shabbos, you could decide. Wait a second. Even if it's just one Talmud Chacham, how could you decide on Shabbos something that was not known before Shabbos? That this eruv should take effect or that eruv should take effect. It's Ein Breira. So the Gemara says, "V'am Rabbi Yochanan Ein Breira." V'am Rabbi Yochanan said, the only time that's permitted if the Chacham came, just you didn't know about it, and on Shabbos somebody told you he's on the west. So he already came before Shabbos. So automatically, this was something, not an unknown. It was a decided factor. Just you didn't know which side to go. But the Chacham already the one speaker, he actually came to either the east or the west. So that works. So therefore, here's a clear proof that Rabbi Yehuda holds ein breira. Therefore, he can't retroactively make something effect. That's why there was no pushka for what? For a carbon chatas for women, because we were afraid that maybe one of the women died, and you cannot resolve that. You can't just take zuzim out of the pushka and make everything okay. Okay, now we come back to our original question, and that ends the Gemara. Now that we say Rabbi Yehuda ein breira, and now that we say that the whole reason why Rabbi Yehuda did not like a pushka for a carbon chatas is because ein breira. If in case the person died, you will never be able to resolve all the money in the pushka. But Haksida Islam. But Rabbi Yehuda holds that labeling something, if it's labeled correctly, it works. Nobody makes mistakes when things are labeled correctly. So the question is, Yom Kippurim name ne'avatrei. Why does Rabbi Yehuda hold you make only one base? Make two of them, v'nichtav alayu, and write on those bases, or on, like Steve said, on the picture, that this is the par and this is the sa'ir. Why did he say make it hard for the kohen that he always has to be holding on to one blood? The answer is mishum chulsha the kohen gadol lavadaiti. Rabbi Yehuda was concerned that the kohen gadol is very weak because he stayed up a whole night, didn't eat so much on Erev Yom Kippur, and he's working a whole day, and therefore he's not going to pay attention. He's going to mix it up. The Eloi Tema Achi, if you don't say this idea, but like Sivanami, even without writing, you could figure out which one is the cow's blood. If I give you two of them, two pictures, and tells you which one is the cow's blood, which one's the goat's blood, you'll be able to tell me. High nuffish, the cow's blood is a lot. It's heavier. There's more blood in a cow. The high zuter. This one is less. That maybe turns out that the cups are going to be equal because you're not going to collect all the blood. So the weight of the blood of the cow's cup is the same weight as the cup of the goat. That's not true. When the Kohen Gadol shechted the cow, he had to fill it up to the top, all that blood. So you had to fill it up, not to, just do a little bit. So actually, even without writing it, you can tell in your hand if you're holding the par's blood or the sa'ir's blood. Maybe some of the blood split out. You can still tell. Just look into the picture. High chiber, the blood of a goat looks a little bit whiter. It's not as reddish, and the high sumak and the blood of a cow is much more redder, right? That's why we said that that shovel had to be a reddish copper look, reddish copper gold look, to remind us of the blood of the cow. So the blood of the cow is much redder. So it was almost impossible for the kohen to make this mistake, because you could just look at the blood and say, oh, this is the goat, or which is the cow. But why still don't we trust the kohen? Because the kohen gadol is very stressed out, he's not going to pay attention. So also, if you write it up and say dam sa'ir and dam par, because of the stress of the kohen gadol, he's not going to pay attention. Two more pieces of the Gemara. So that's the bottom line. Rabbi Yehuda is more concerned about the mental awareness of the kohen gadol on that moment. There was a shliach tzibur who went in front of Rava and davened for the Yom on Yom Kippur, and he read in the davening. He said, quoting what the kohen gadol used to do in the the Yom Kippur Shemoneh Esrei. He said, he came out, took the blood of the goat and put it on the second like this, on the second stand, and that's what he read. That's what it said in his machzer, so to speak. And then he said, Notel dam hapar, v'niach dam asari. He took the cow and put down the blood sa'ir. Now this expression seems to be in the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, where there was only one base over there, and you first had to put down the blood of the cow and then take the dam of the sa'ir. You have to take the blood of the cow off the base and put down the dam of sa'ir. Amalei, so Rabbi Yehuda Rava questioned his shliach tzibur's machzer, and he said, "Chada k'Rabbanim." The first phrase you said is the opinion of Rabbanim, that there were two kansheni, means there were two bases. V'chada k'Rabbi Yehuda, and then you say the next part of your phrase implies that there was only one kan over there, was one base over there. So Ema, he said, you have to correct your machzer. That the correct version is that when the Kohen Gadol came out, he first placed down the goat's blood on the second stand, and then v'notel dam hapar, and took the cow's blood from the first stand. So that resolves the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. One more piece of Gemara to end the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanim, the rabbis taught, that you should sprinkle, just like you sprinkled out in the Kodesh Kadoshim, so also you should do the same thing in the oil moed outside on the curtain. Ma Talmud Loimer. Why does it say Yaaseh? It should say V'chein l'oil moed. What does it mean you should do? So we darshan Kishem Shemaz Lefnayim Lefnim, just like you sprinkle in the Kodesh Kadoshim. Kash Maza Be'echel. So you sprinkle on the outside of the Kodesh Kadoshim by the curtain. Ma Lefnayim Lefnim. Just like when you're in the Kodesh Kadoshim, you do 8 sprinkles. Achas Lamala, 1 underhand. V'sheva lamata, and 7 down. Midama par. Kach maza behechel. So also in the hechel, you sprinkle the same direction. Achas lamala, sheva lamata. Ukshem shlufnaim lefnim. When you're inside, achas lamata, v'sheva lamata, midama asar. From the goat, you did the same thing. Achas lamala, v'sheva lamata, in the kodesh kadoshim. So kach maza behechel, same thing. When you come out to the curtain, you do the same thing. You have to sprinkle each, the dama par and the dama sa'ir, both achas lamala, sheva lamata, each one separately, not mixed up. Then the pasuk ends off. Hashoichin itam b'soich tumaisam. This is our last Gemara. God rests with the Jewish people during their tumah, because the whole point, by the way, of this spraying of the blood on the paraiches was to bring atonement for people for the service that was done betumah. Betumah, that even though that you're not supposed to do it betumah, but nevertheless God accepted all year the service that was done when there was tumah. God accepted it, but you still need to bring an atonement for it, and that's the idea of the par and the sire. Mechaper am tumas migdash ukdasha. So we say that God rests in Klal Yisrael betum oisam when they have tumah. Even the Jewish people are tamei, shchina imahem. God rests His presence with the Jewish people. This tzedaki said to Rab Chanina, and it could be a Christian also. Hashta, we go to one line here. Hashta bari tameinatim. I'm so clear that all the Jewish people are tamei, right? We're not so holy people. Diksiv, because the pasuk says in Eicha, tumasa b'shuleha. The tumah of the Jewish people is in their hems, so to speak, like a nida. So you're tamei. Amalei. So Rab Chanina, right? Rab Chanina answered back. I agree with you that we're tamei. But Tochazi, look and observe. What does it say? God is resting His presence, even though we're tamei. And you can see that there's a lot of nisim and ruach hakodesh that happens to the Jewish people, even though we are very tamei. Because the idea is that no matter how far a person distanced himself from Yiddishkeit, at the time of Mashiach's time, everybody will have this urge to come back, because God says, I'm always resting my presence, even during when a Jew has tumah on him. So this is where we'll stop. Yeah, so it's Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, 3 lines from the top. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Very good. Gute Nacht, everybody. Okay.
Good.
Gute Nacht.